Okay, happy campers. Here's part two of our alternate assignment, and we're covering the wonderful world of Timber Mart South. The second part that is in that document is the species detailed report. Okay, and it gives you individual species stumpage prices for hardwood and softwood. Okay, so this is the section we're primarily looking at species by species stumpage prices. And they give you a detailed explanation of what they actually list here. So this is kind of a summary sheet, just really if you want to just glance over it. And this really breaks the area up into two major groups, the Appalachian area and then the rest of the South. Later on, it breaks up the South into state by state, but I wanted to kind of explain these two different areas for you. I'm going to go down just a little bit, and you can see North Carolina is broken up into two areas here. The one in the west of pretty much I-77 is in Area 1, and in the which is part of the Piedmont and the mountains, and then the other part of the Piedmont and the coastal plain sits in Area 2. Okay, so what they call the Appalachian area is what they call Virginia Area 1, North Carolina Area 1, and Tennessee Area 1. They're lumped together, okay? And then you'll see for the other state, when they're doing the state-by-state stuff, they'll talk about Virginia Area 2, North Carolina Area 2, blah, 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 okay? So just bear that in mind. The other thing I think you probably noticed if you've looked this over at all is that it gives you information in tons and then in Doyle, MBF and Doyle. And if you're looking at, if pretty much kind of looking what we've got over here, this is primarily all hardwoods that they're looking at. Okay, so they're not really discussing much in the way of pine in this area here. So when you are talking about hardwoods, that Doyle tends to be the market or the log rule that people tend to buy and sell on. So you will see Doyle. Okay, so just want you to kind of see, and they give you the Appalachian, those three states up in the southern Appalachians, and then the rest of the South is kind of lumped together here. Okay, so you see it's a wide variety of species that they cover, and it gets into some log rule and weight equivalents. And one we're going to kind of take a look at is, of course, if you're working with pines, you're primarily working with Scribners. So what is the 1,000 board feet to ton equivalent? It's about 7.5, okay? So we can make these price conversions based on this 7.5 tons per MBF, okay? Now, if you're working with hardwoods, then Doyle tends to be the one that you're working with the most, and that equivalent is 8.75 tons per 1,000 board feet for Doyle. Okay, then it gives us some of these old standards, 128 cubic feet per stack. Now, if you're trying to look at cords, cubic feet to cubic meters, what short tons are, what metric tons are, and all that good stuff. Most of the pulpwood and chip and saw is sold on a ton basis now. So but of course they convert it to cords for you, because some people still operate in cords. So anyway, moving down a little bit further, these are the product classes that they use. So pulpwood is primarily 6 inches and up. Could be anything. Could be a piece of sound cull that they use, so they don't limit it to an upper diameter class. Chip and saw, again, we talked about that, about 8 to 11, primarily in the pine markets, and in saw timber. A lot of times, the hardwoods they'll go up to a 12-inch class, and they pretty much just kind of lump that together here. So, just wanted you to be aware that they actually have some different classes that they work with. Okay, and they also have this super pulpwood or micro saw timber. It's for all practical purposes, it's very similar to as chip and saw size classes. So they go species by species. There's ash, black cherry, and I know some of you were asking me for that last homework assignment how, because I actually asked you to give me the a various log grade based on the low and the high or the average prices. And so I turned around and I said, don't worry about that. But if you did want to do that, I'll show you how you can do that. Okay. For instance, let's say because we only had 2 species out there, right? We had oak and yellow poplar over at the TMS. And so basically, if you look at this table here, let's just take a look at red oak. And here's the Appalachian prices in tons. Okay, so that was the low ton and the high ton and the average ton. And then that was their conversion to 1,000 board feet based on Doyle. Okay, so how'd they get there? They did the 8.75 conversion. So essentially all you're doing is multiplying each one of these by 8.75. So in essence, you really could have calculated that from this data that you had. Here's the North Carolina too, the rest of North Carolina for red oak. Okay, so down east, red oak's fetching a little bit more money than it is up here. So I just wanted to show you, how you could have done that. I created a quick and dirty little spreadsheet. Let me make it a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. And I could have done this. I did this for red oak, saw timber, and this was the prices that they gave. Whoops, this shouldn't say that. That should just say dollars per ton. Okay, so so this is these were the numbers they gave you for Appalachian. These were the numbers they gave you for the rest of North Carolina. So essentially, all I did is I multiplied this by 8.75, and it gives me the low, the high, and the average. I did that for all 3 of those. And if you take a look, the average is exactly what they printed, $376. So this was the average. Basically, what they're giving you is the average here. The average here that's been converted to dollars per NBF. Okay. So again, there's that 367, and there's that 419. Okay, so you can see it again. So it's pretty simple to do the conversion if you want to, and and I can kind of agree with why they would do it that way. So we've got sweet gum, and so this is really showing a lot of the the more common hardwood species that are being used. So you could have done that for the red oak, and then you could have done it for the yellow poplar right here. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on with that. They've got other things too, which are kind of interesting. They've got go back up here. Where'd the cross ties go? There's pallet wood. All right, that's a mishmash of all different kinds of hardwoods. Cross ties, that's usually fairly, that could be landscape timbers, but typically you're talking about like railroad ties, and it's usually good hard woods that are used for that. So oaks, if they don't have the quality, lots of little knots in them or something like that, if they don't have the quality to make it to saw timber, a lot of times they'll make cross ties out of them. Pallet wood, again, that's a mishmash of some of the lower quality wood. Cypress saw timber down east. Notice it's not in Doyle because they don't sell it in Doyle. And then the red cedar, which you don't see a whole lot of markets for red cedar around here. So Arkansas is pretty much the only one who did any kind of reporting on that. And then we got that micro saw timber. These are kind of these small mills, the mom and pop mills that they're working on. And then Virginia pine. And that's it for this one. I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and we'll take a look at the biomass and residuals report in the next exciting episode.